or listening to the Bearded Hops podcast. Don't forget to
Hey, pass me a beer.
Look, at least promise me you won't drink. Alcohol always leads to trouble.
Hey, who wants to play Drink the Beer?
Right here.
You win.
All right, what do I win?
Another beer.
Just have a cup of coffee.
Beer it is.
Coffee?
Beer.
I'd kill for a beer.
Cheap beer and a sympathetic ear. Step right up.
Go, Chad.
Oh, hey, what's going on, everybody? I was trying to figure out some lyrics to a Barry White song, but it wasn't coming to me.
You couldn't Google it fast enough.
No, I couldn't Google it fast enough.
That's all right.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Chad from Beard Hops Podcast. I sound a little different tonight because I got a bad sore throat, but I'm going to persevere and get through it. Down in North Chi-Town, as usual, Jake and Adam, how you guys doing tonight?
Good.
What up?
I refuse to turn the lights on. It gets too hot in here, so I'm just leaving them off tonight.
I like the evil Adam look. Stay with it.
Yeah. I don't have my overhead light on tonight either. I'm just doing these lights here behind me.
Chad, you've totally abandoned the floating head.
I know.
It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't really a great look, I don't think, for me. I mean, I don't have the greatest looking head, so when it's just a head.
No, it wasn't a great look.
Yeah.
All right. Really, we're a minute half in this.
Moving on. Sorry,
come on, people. Jeez.
All right, our special guest tonight is Ren Navarro up in Canada. How you doing, Ren?
I'm good. I got a beer, so everything's fine.
There you go. Exactly. Where are Boots in Canada are you?
Oh, a boot, really?
Sorry, I had to.
For ease of answer, I always say Toronto, but the honest answer is Kitchener.
So Toronto.
Toronto.
Toronto. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I have no idea where Kitchener is, but Toronto. I know Toronto.
Yeah, everyone knows Toronto.
Yeah, I go there a couple of times a year
Kitchener?
for work.
What direction?
West of Toronto.
Is it a suburb of Toronto, or is it its
Has
own?
nothing to do with Toronto.
Nothing to do with Toronto.
Nothing
Okay.
to do
Oh, I found it.
It's like
Absolutely nothing.
said like a person who used to live in Toronto, but I'm like, it has nothing to do with Toronto. Nothing at all.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. And I guess wait, I interrupted. Go, Chad. It's your bit. You gotta.
Oh, to go around the room and see what everybody's drinking.
Yeah.
I have abandoned beer for the night simply because I've got this sore throat. So I'm sipping on some Tin Cup straight American whiskey.
Is that going to help the throat there, Chad?
It does wonders for the throat.
Yeah.
Or just make him not remember he had it. Either way.
I'm not slamming shots here. I'm just sipping it just to keep the soreness at bay so I can talk. So.
All right.
Jakey Poo.
I have Sour Monkey by Victory. It's a sour Brett triple. And if you notice that very delicious ABV.
It's still low for you.
Well, I mean, it's about as close as it gets to make me happy. It's almost double digit. First one, though.
That's nice. I'm having water because I do not feel good. So that's what I'm having.
I'm healthy. One of three.
Yeah, you got one of three healthy podcasters tonight. Ren, what are you drinking?
I am drinking from People's Pint, which is from Toronto. It's actually my collaboration called IPA. And It's IPA with 5 exclamation points.
Yeah.
So it's
Clever.
IPA!
Exactly.
Yeah, you got to yell it out.
That's clever.
I figure why not, right?
Right.
We could have put a lot of thought into it, but why bother?
Is that mason jar you got? What are you drinking out of?
This is a... no, it's not a mason jar.
Oh, I thought I saw a mason jar. I'm an idiot.
Oh, come on.
I would have thought that would have been
No.
cool. I like when they serve stuff in the mason jar.
It's a Butchie's glass. It's like a can glass.
All right.
So, yeah.
Way off.
Yeah,
when
way off.
they're thinking, what do we call this beer? Just call it IPA with 5 exclamations.
Add some exclamation points. That's fine.
Yeah.
Makes it easy. Makes it very easy. So, Ren, tell us about yourself. Well, let's start with that. Just tell us about yourself first.
There you go. Very open-ended. Just
yeah,
just,
right. Like
start talking.
So
you,
I like
you
long
have to fill an
walks.
hour, and then we'll be good. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, no problem. I run a company called Beer Diversity, and it's twofold. So part of it is doing consulting for restaurants and bars, and it's literally helping them create their beer listings. And then doing the training for staff and ordering the beer and all of that fun, like day-to-day kind of stuff. And then the other part that I do quite often is talks and workshops about the need for diversity in craft beer. And I've been traveling around for that for the last year, and I've been super honored and #blessed to be able to go to the Craft Brewers Conference in Denver. I was at Fresh Fest in Pittsburgh. I was recently in Ottawa to do a talk with Dominion City. And then last week, I actually won the Editor's Circle choice for the Golden Tap Awards, which was the outstanding achievement in beer.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
I didn't know we had an award winner on the show.
I was going to say,
none of us three losers are, but congratulations. That's cool.
Thanks.
No, what we always ask everybody, because it's really interesting. How did you get into beer? Like, why craft beer? What were you doing something before craft beer and then got into it?
Where did the passion begin?
I was working in finance, which makes you drink a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So that you could stop right there. I was working in
finance. I was working in finance.
Yeah, I got you.
I see that downtown. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was working in a life insurance company, and I was in management. So it's like everything right there. It's like life insurance, management, call center, dealing with people, and just would drink a lot. And at some point, it was just finally got out of it, and got a lucky break and got a job working in the retail of a craft beer brewery, which not to be confused with your Great Lakes brewery, but we have a Great Lakes brewery in Canada, in Etobicoke. And so did that.
Who was first?
Actually, do you know what? I think they're like 3 months apart.
Oh, so, really?
Yeah. So I'm not sure which one it is, but they are like actually really close.
So nobody can claim it.
So no one can claim it. And it was really funny because a lot of Americans would show up being like, "Oh, it's Great Lakes," and it was like, not the Great Lakes you think.
Yeah, not that one.
I mean, it's craft beer too, but I did that, and then I did sales for a bunch of different breweries for a bunch of years. And in the end, just eventually got into this. So I've been running this company for about a year and a half, and it's been a crazy trip.
And you're doing it full time?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it still feels weird to be like, this is my job.
Right. Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it keeps going well for you. When you turn a passion into a job, you run that risk, but some people just keep on trucking and enjoy it forever. So
yeah,
I hope it keeps working out for you.
Yeah, me too.
Ray, can you explain further how it works? Or are you like a consultant or like an event, like you create an event for them that brings in maybe an audience and customers that they're not good at reaching? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so part of it for the consulting for restaurants and bars is really coming in and taking the time to go through how to bring in craft beer. So I'm the liaison with all the sales reps and stuff. But for the piece about diversity, it's, breweries just saying, like, we look around and it's the exact day in, day out, which is great, but we know that there are other groups of people that we would love to attract, and just kind of teaching staff how to deal with people and not just like deal with people, but being able to say, like, there is a diversity of people outside of this. So it's, LGBTQ, it's people of a certain age. So if your current demographic is 25 to 30 and you're looking to attract people who are 55 and up, like, how do you deal with them? Do you, do you greet that guy who looks like he's 65 with "Yo dog, what's up"? Probably not. It's just like, so these basic things on kind of how to deal with people and make them feel welcome, because at the end of the day, it's not about getting rid of your core group of people who are already there. It's about making room to invite in other people who are going to keep coming. And how do you make more money and make your brewery a little more popular and get your beer out a little further?
Yo,
Cool.
Dad.
Yo, Dad, what's up?
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
Would you like to drink? Do you walk into places that think that they already have a average to above average selection of craft beer, and you look at that menu and you're like, this is just garbage? Does that happen, or do they already pretty much know that they need your help making some connections because they know they don't have anything?
I've been lucky, and it's been them saying we need you to help us come in and do it. Or it's places. There's one place I'm working with, which is Butchie's in Whitby, so the other end of Toronto, where they didn't even have a beer selection. So we've between myself and the owner, we've built up a really amazing craft beer selection and have been maintaining it for about a year and a half.
Now, is it just that the owner doesn't know beer very well, or is it they don't
Sometimes-
know what to pick from craft beer because the selections can be numerous?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's that they don't know. Sometimes it's that they don't have time, right? Like you run a bar or a restaurant, and you already have to deal with food costs and staffing, and you're not going to be like, oh, great, I have all the time in the world to talk to 18 sales reps today about beer. Like it's not a real thing. So that's where I come in, and I'm the person who says, okay, I'm going to deal with them. We're going to do the samples. We'll sit down, whatever we bring in. It literally, I'm the one who orders it, and then make sure that the staff understands like all about craft beer and how to talk about it.
Has it changed that specific place you're referencing that didn't even really have a beer list, and you've sort of built out this craft beer list? Have you seen the atmosphere, the clientele? Has it helped to sort of transform that place?
Yeah, I mean their food's already killer awesome, so it's nice to be like, not only is the food really great, but now you can get a great beer. We have found that there's a great diversity. There already was a great diversity in terms of people who are eating there, and now it's kind of changed some of that clientele. So we do have a few more beer nerds coming in because the assumption is that I have the time to be able to talk to different breweries, and we've been able to bring in stuff that other places aren't getting, because I'm able to use friendships, and past relationships with breweries to be able to say, I know you're not really selling this to licensees, but like, hey, like, what can we get?
Nudge, nudge.
So it's been pretty cool. So we're that location is now known for having beer either before other bars or restaurants get it, or we get stuff that no one else is getting.
So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, what's the craft beer scene like in Canada?
I
mean, is it? I mean, we always get told how many breweries are in the U.S.
Yeah.
How many are in Canada? Do they?
So
a brewers association up there keeping count like there is in the U.S.
No. So in terms of how we do it, we actually do it provincially. So I'm in Ontario. So for us, it's the Ontario Craft Brewers Association, so the OCB. And we've got about 300 craft breweries in Ontario. I think for Canada, it's probably about 900, 950. So we're like way behind you guys at your like 7,000. But I mean, we're cranking out some really great stuff. Like I was just in the States 2 weeks ago, and I was in Trader Joe's, and there was Collective Arts, and Collective Arts is from Hamilton, and they were on like 3 shelves in Trader Joe's. So you guys are drinking Canadian beer. I mean, we're doing sours, we're doing IPAs, we're doing doubles, triples, milkshake. Like I don't see it as being that different from the States. If anything, we're usually about a half step behind, maybe a step and a half. So when you guys are through with your New England, suddenly we're like, oh, guys, have you had a New England IPA? It's so great. But otherwise, yeah, we're doing pretty much the same thing.
Well, I feel like I should know this. I mean, our friendly neighbors to the north. But did you catch that?
Yeah, I didn't want to.
Yeah, nobody's laughing.
I'm not going to do any of that. So
Thank you.
I lived in northern Wisconsin for a couple of years, and it's crazy bad, the accent up there. It's worse than Canadians, I think.
What are you saying?
All I'm saying is I should know this, and I don't.
Move along.
So you've got 950 craft breweries, but what's the population of Canada?
It's a bunch of people.
Okay,
I feel like I should take time to Google this. I don't know because it's
well,
like
I'm curious what the ratio is. I mean, there's 350 million
The
people.
brewery per capita or something.
It depends. So it depends provincially. So if you're in Nova Scotia, they, I believe, have the highest number of breweries to people per capita, but because they have like 5 people living there, so it's one of those things, right? Like,
and all 5 of them own a brewery.
So. Yeah, exactly. They actually own all the breweries that they're talking about.
There's 37 million
people. So your ratio is much better than the United States. Well, I don't know.
Well,
7,
but it depends too. But don't forget, Canada is bigger with just like landmass.
Right, landmass, yeah.
And then everyone's kind of spread the hell out. So it's, I mean, like Toronto's got like 10 million people.
Chad, this says in 2018 there was 3.4 breweries in Canada per 100,000 legal drinking age adults.
So,
well, yeah, I just did a little division here.
Oh boy, here we go.
Oh boy, here
using
using
9. Well, I use the iPhone; it did it for me. But
hey Siri.
So if you look at the population, say it's 900 breweries, and if it's 950, it's even better. So it's a brewery per 41,000 people, versus in the States using 7,000, it's a brewery per 50,000 people. So
yeah,
I'm gonna go with what Google said, Chad, not your math.
Chad's drinking whiskey. He can't be trusted.
Yeah,
exactly.
And who knows what cold meds he's hopped up on.
Yeah,
you do have a point there.
Is there any styles that started in Canada that we were the ones that were like, oh, this is awesome, and or other places jumped on board? Can you think of anything that kind of originated there?
This probably, but honestly, you get so flooded with stuff now that it's anything that's happened a little while back. You're just like, do you remember that? No, I don't remember that. Like it was, it was something that was worthwhile.
Right.
I think for what I notice when I travel, it's not about Canadian beer styles. It's about breweries. So, I was in Europe once and there was a Bellwoods bottle on a shelf and it's like, Bellwoods is from downtown Toronto. Like, why is that bottle here? And seeing collective arts and kind of seeing that where you talk to certain Americans and they're like, can you bring me insert Canadian brewery beer? And it's not about the style, it's just about the brewery. So there are a few like Bellwoods, Collective Arts, there's a couple others where when you travel people are just like, did you happen to bring any?
Yeah, we're gonna do that later in the show. We're gonna ask you to bring us Canadian.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
We'll get to that part.
Next trip.
So we probably should have said or could have said this right up front, because there's people that may be listening to this and not watching it. So I'm going to ask you about the Society of Beer Drinking Ladies. Not only are you a lady, you are a black lady. So I know we want to talk about the diversity in craft beer, both men, women, and races of all across the board. But tell us about the Society of Beer Drinking Ladies that you created.
Yeah, so I'm one of the co-founders. I left a couple of years ago, but they're still going strong. When we started, it was 5 of us. I think it's now 2 of them who are still running it. And when the 5 of us started it, we were all working in craft beer and kind of thought, like, do women actually drink beer? Like, you can't drink beer. You've got delegate constitutions. And we did it. We did it initially to be a safe space for women who worked in the industry. And word got out and it ballooned. And last I heard, they're doing events with 3,000 people. My last it's every couple of months.
Wow.
And the last event that I did, which was 2 years ago, was the biggest 2 years ago at 1,300. So it's definitely ballooned over the years. And it's also led to the creation of a bunch of other women's groups. So, in Peterborough, which again is just outside of Toronto, there's the Electric City Beer Betches, there's Hoppy Bitches, there's Iron Beer Maidens in Hamilton, there's Barley Angels, which is actually also in the States. So they're in the States, they're in Canada, in a bunch of different provinces. And then there's Queen of Craft, which is in Guelph, again, just outside of Toronto. So there's like all of these groups that are starting up. Queen of Craft is one of the originals, and then we kind of followed later on with that. And just kind of to be able to see what's happened and how it's
is
going.
that the chick from Game of Thrones?
What? No.
On the left there. it looks like oh shit, what's her name?
All right, drug boy. All right, cold
I know,
medicine guy.
seriously.
Moving on.
Yeah, like, what are you actually drinking?
Yeah, right. What is
What
that?
are you smoking?
I'm not.
But yeah,
smoking,
so it's pretty cool to know that one of the groups that I helped co-found is still going strong and is still influencing a bunch of other women's groups. But then you're also seeing there's more talk of international groups. So there's the Queer Brewing Group, which is it's the Queer Brewing Project, which is being led by Lily Waite, and that's out of the UK. But Lily's doing like a tour right now, so she's going to the States shortly to be doing some brewing. And you're seeing all these groups of people like Dope and Dank, which is now Crown and Hops. They're based out of Inglewood, California, and Benny and Tio are like personal mentors for me, and their whole thing is like Black people love beer and getting the word out that way. Dr. J from the Brewers Association, she's been traveling around and doing fantastic things. There's just like, it's just so great to see all these different groups of people. Eric from Uncap Everything, there's Bearded Black Man, like it's just on and on and on and on. Afro Beer Chick, who recently has been in the news.
Yeah.
Just kind of a reminder about how we fight for this diversity in beer, and like sometimes it doesn't happen. And some guy who is obviously, he hasn't been hugged enough by most of his family members. Unsolicited, right? Like,
I think that's a nice way to put it. Yeah, we'll say it that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been so nice.
Yeah, well, pretty much, right? But he sent her like the worst message ever, where he just dropped the N-word and said that she didn't belong in beer and was an idiot and all of these things. So it's we talk about all these different beer groups, and people go, well, isn't that cute? And it's like, well, that's why we do it, because we have to create safe spaces for ourselves to, I think, almost allow you to learn more about beer, so that when you get into the big picture, big world, you can say, like, I can speak to these things now because I had a group of people who either thought like me or looked like me or had enough in common with me to kind of give me that like push to go forward, to say, hey, I know just as much as you do about craft beer.
And not only do they say, isn't that cute, but what I hear a lot of times is, why do we need that? We don't.
There's a lot of that.
We don't need that. I mean, of course, in the U.S., they'll say, we had a black president. We don't need that. It's like, come on. Like, really? Like,
one was enough.
Exactly, right? One. We've never had a woman either. It's saying.
We don't need her. She's probably crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, yeah, so let's jump into the diversity bit of it, because it's been something, this is season 3 for us, and we're really, all season, we're focusing on diversity. So we had Afro Beer Chick on before the email incident.
Yeah.
And
just before, right, Adam? Like a week or two? It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a couple weeks. I think it was a couple weeks before. Yeah, it was just insane. But for us as white guys with beards, we are craft beer, right? I mean, that's what.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Unfortunately,
that's the image of craft beer, and what it has been. And so, how do you see it? And what is? I guess let's start it this way. We have asked several other guests the same question. What type of experience have you had walking into a brewery? Now, I understand it may be different for you because you've worked in breweries, and
yeah.
But have you had any bad experiences because of your color, because of your gender? Like, what has happened?
Yeah, I just had a conversation with a guy in a brewery like a month and a half ago, and he asked why he's like, well, you don't come to this brewery a lot. And I said, because I don't feel welcome. And he was really surprised at it. And I said, you've got one staff member who always makes me feel really great. And if they're not here, I don't want to stay. And he was just like, but everyone knows who you are. I was like, well, it doesn't matter if everyone knows who I am, because I don't feel welcome when I come to your brewery. So if your staff knows who I am, then that's even worse. Because I haven't said anything bad about your brewery, but yeah, no, I still get people, even when I'm doing the beer buying for restaurants, I had a sales rep ask me if I drank beer. Yeah.
Really?
On the front of it, on the face of it, that might not seem like a big deal, right? Oh, what's a big deal? They ask you if you drink beer.
Yep.
But it's the assumption behind the question.
It's what it implies.
Yeah.
It has to be yes.
Yeah, but also if you know that my job is buying beer for a restaurant,
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, like normally don't make assumptions, but maybe this time assume that I drink the beer that I buy.
Right? How could you do it if you didn't drink it? I mean, you didn't know anything about it.
But we'd also had a conversation about my knowledge of beer, so it wasn't just that the opening line was "Do you drink beer?" It was a 20-minute conversation where the punchline then was "Do you drink beer?" Right? Exactly. Yes, that's like. Yes, I drink beer.
So I'm going to ask you about your beer knowledge. We're going to show you my beer knowledge, and at the end, you're going to go, "Do you drink it?" It's like,
yeah,
no,
it was.
No, I just read books about it.
Yeah, like someone told me a story once about beer, and now I think I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Hey, I watched. There's YouTube videos for everything.
There's YouTube videos on that. Yeah, I learned everything from YouTube.
Yep, that's it.
Oh my god.
So what? So you said the place didn't make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
What about it? Was it just the way somebody said something, or that nobody said anything? Nobody acknowledged you?
Yeah, I think it was the no one really acknowledged, and it was almost that record scratch when you walk in, and it just sometimes it's just a vibe too. I'll have a seat with a bunch of friends, and kind of people watch me. And it's like, I'm not going to steal your kid. I'm not going to steal your dog. I'm literally just here for a beer.
I don't even like kids, so...
I don't even like kids. You can keep your kid.
Keep your kids, man.
Yeah. If anything, I'm going to march out and be like, I don't have a kid to take care of.
Get your kids out of the brewery. Get your kids out of the brewery.
Who's bringing kids here? It's 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Put them to bed.
Yeah, and they're like, the kid's the DD. Excuse you. That kid looks 5.
It's okay. We just put blocks on the pedal. So
it's great. Whatever.
No big deal. We got a Tesla. It'll take us home.
Maybe in one piece, maybe in 2.
Maybe not. Who knows?
But yeah, it's like those little microaggressions that people forget about, because if you never experience them, and I mean, not to knock the guy I was talking to, but it was like, he's a white straight guy, and I was like, well, when's the last time you didn't feel welcome somewhere? And it's like, it's probably the last time you accidentally walked into a women's washroom. It's not like, oh, I went into a brewery and I had a weird experience. So I think it's,
the wrong bathroom?
Yeah.
Wrong bathroom.
I've done it too.
And even when it happens, who cares? Just make sure you wash your hands when you're leaving.
When I did it, I was way too inebriated and nobody was in there. I just walked out. I walked out and people were looking at me weird, and I turned around and like, oh shit! All right, well, anyway, go back to the bar.
Just wash your hands. No one cares.
I had to go.
But yeah, I think it's kind of that make things really simple. Don't do the record scratch of that moment when someone walks in that you don't recognize. It's like people of color and what again, like that piece of diversity that you don't normally see. Don't be like, oh my God, how did you find us? Like, hey, welcome. Have you been here before? Like, these are simple things that most staff are trained to ask people. And if I'm not white or a white guy, like, don't be like, oh, you found us. Just like, and I found that was kind of the reaction that I was getting going there. And it just got to the point where I was like, you know what, there's other breweries to go to where people are actually really nice to me. And the beer that they make is great, but I don't care.
Yeah.
That's a shame for that brewery.
I mean, if you don't feel comfortable.
Do you know what? I don't even think that they care. Like, because I also don't name them, because I don't name and shame. And I just, I've had conversations with them.
Maybe they don't care. Are they even aware? Do they even have the awareness to decide if they care or not?
It was pretty long. It was a long conversation. I hope he had some awareness that this black lady is really mad about this. But I don't know.
But before that, were they even aware? Which is still, an indictment on them. I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But, do they even get it?
I think that it's not about getting it if it's not in front of you, right? Like that whole why fix it, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Why should I fix it? And I think that because they were popular enough and they were always busy and there was like no real issue. Like I don't think most people will stop and say, hey, I don't see a woman of color. I don't see like, someone who is openly LGBTQ or someone of a certain age. Like, you don't have this checklist where you're like, I don't see this person, so therefore I need to worry about this diversity. You see it in terms of my tap room is full, everyone has a drink, no one's run out on their bill, great night.
Yeah.
So, and I think that at that point, why are you going to start looking for other things?
I don't care.
So you don't know what you don't know. So I don't think it's about not caring. I think it's literally, I'm making some money and my lights are staying on, and I'm not thinking about the other group of people that I could try and bring in to continuously make more money.
Yeah.
That's,
are you seeing more diversity in terms of like people that work at breweries in Canada? Is that changing at all? Whether it's marketing, brewers, people behind the bar, like, is that changing?
Slowly, very slowly.
Very slowly.
When I started in beer, there weren't a lot of women, so you could kind of be like, I spoke to a woman, and then they give you like a list of 5 women, and you'd be like, I think that was her. Now there are a lot of women working in beer, especially in Ontario, and owning breweries, like, running the sales teams, brewing. But when you're looking at people of color, or for us, like Indigenous peoples, because we don't treat them real great here in Canada. So that's slowly growing, but I could name maybe 10 people of color, but if we've got 300 breweries, that's not even a, like, you showed up to write the test.
How many breweries are in your city, the city or town that you live in? Are there several close by?
I think we've got 15.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's within probably about a half hour.
Yeah, so this was a strategic selection when you started living there.
Maybe.
Strategy. I like it.
Breweries everywhere.
Do you go into Toronto and work with some of the other breweries and in restaurants and stuff there? Or?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I'm in Toronto quite often.
Oh yeah. What was the panel like at the Craft Beer Fest? Being on the panel, what was the makeup of the panel?
It was Dr. J who was moderating, which is always amazing, and she's fantastic. We were talking about diversity, so it really was kind of how to diversify craft beer, but it was broken into 3 pieces. So there were home brewers, there was a Latinx background, queer brewing, and then the next section was community engagement. So it was Mike from Black Brew, and then Tony from Beer Culture, and then my section was myself and some of the ladies from Ladies Pint Out. So it was it was really cool. It was really just kind of chatting about how each sector is affected by the diversity or the lack of diversity, and how we work on it.
So what was that, like 15 people or so on the panel? Like,
I think in the end it was probably like 6 or 7 of us.
Oh, okay. And just held it. What did you just conference center, or was it at the?
Yeah, so the craft
being asked.
Yeah, so the Craft Brewers Conference this year was in Denver.
Yeah.
And yeah, so full panel, but it was rotation through each group, so it wasn't all 7 of us sitting together being like, oh, let me field that question, because each group of us came with different backgrounds of it, So like Tony and Mike talked about both of them being people of color, talked about that whole community aspect and how Black people are or are not marketed to. Mm-hmm. The homebrewers were also talking about kind of how being homebrewers of color or LGBTQ background or and how they're like not necessarily taken seriously. And then for ours, we were, women who were also former sales rep and current sales reps, and how that was working out, and just kind of like taking away that sheen, because I think that people are always like, if we see a little bit of diversity, isn't that great? And it's like, well, no, because it shouldn't be one of those things. It should be a constant, ongoing change where we're really trying to just be better. And and my whole thing is like, if you're a brewery, don't you just want to make more money? Like,
Right.
you can't just be happy with your current clientele. Like, if you say that's what it is, you're a liar or you're incredibly lazy. So it's, I mean, really, like, you've opened a brewery, people what you can do and what you can make, and then when that goes really well, you want that to go further and further. And if you're like, nah, I'm good with my size, then don't do it. You're just wasting everyone's time. And I think that when you get the diversity of different groups and different backgrounds, like, it catches fire, and then everyone talks about how great your stuff is and how great your staff is and how welcoming it is. And don't you all want to be there and buy that beer?
Sure. What do you feel like it was a success then?
Yeah, it was really great. It was whenever I'm on a panel for diversity, it's like, how big is the room going to be? Because usually the room's like one of those.
Yeah,
we have a spare closet over here.
We're actually doing it in the back of this minivan. So no, it was actually a quite large room, so it was really fantastic, and just being able to talk to people after it.
Was there an audience listening?
Yeah. So it
cool.
so it's Brewers Association.
Chad, there were 7 people sitting in a very large room by themselves.
Well, I didn't know if this was just a
Nobody, Chad, but the room was huge.
Yeah.
It was like,
well,
I just screamed into the room. No, it's because it's Brewers Association, right, so it's like it's a real deal conference. What are you drinking out of that bottle?
I don't. Are you mixing like NyQuil with your whiskey or something?
I'm not even buzzed. I'm just sipping on this to keep my throat from being sore. I don't
know, man.
I haven't even. I've drank maybe a shot and a half. That's it total.
Have another shot.
All right, we'll drink more then. I don't know. Jesus.
Maybe that's the problem. I'm usually a little more gone on the show. Yeah, a little more lubed up on the shows, and I'm just not tonight.
Yeah.
Sorry, stupid question.
Craft Brewers Conference is put on by the Brewers Association, which has a lot of members.
Yes, I know. I just didn't know if this was a private conversation amongst a small group or if it was open to questions.
It was open to questions in a very big room with lots of people, and then they recorded it. It was great.
Yeah,
now, were they expecting?
Guys.
Love you too,
it's going great.
I love you, Chad.
No, was there an expectation going into it that it was going to be, like a large group attending this panel, or was it just kind of like, man, I hope people show up?
I always take that. I hope people show up.
Yeah.
Also, because I was the only Canadian on the panel, so I was really like, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just like, I hope I don't pass out and like poop myself. Like, I just.
You represent in Canada. I mean, it's like.
Yeah. You have the whole country.
That's what Canadians do.
Yeah,
right. Right. Somebody get some maple syrup. I don't know what we do here.
And honey, that's why we don't go to Canada, right?
Yeah, it's dangerous over there.
They have to go. They just go at their table, like that lady did. That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
See, Chad, see what you've done to the show. My goodness.
I know, right? It's all poop jokes and passing out.
Hey, everybody's laughing, so it's fine.
Yeah,
that's all that matters, right? Having a good time.
Now, for you specifically, do you think is it more because you're a woman? Is it more because you're a black woman? That you run into things in breweries, where people making the assumptions, like you know beer, or is it a combination of both? You're black and woman, you can't know anything about beer.
I don't know. Like, I think the assumption as a woman is that I don't know beer or I can't handle it.
Right.
When I used to work in the retail store, people would always be like, so I've got to buy this beer for my wife. What would you recommend? And I'm like, oh, you did not. I recommend that your wife leaves you. And then, of course, I would bold IPA, and they'd be like, no, like I want something for my wife. And I'm like, well, you obviously know her, so I don't know why you're asking me what I should recommend.
That's what I would pick.
I would pick the double IPA because it's good.
Get her drunk, dude.
No, even give her something flavorful.
Yeah, Jake, come on.
And then they'd be like, no.
He's probably like, shouldn't you be recommending like a strawberry Kolsch or something?
That's pretty much, yeah. They'd be like,
Yeah.
but don't you mean? And I'm like, no, I actually mean a double IPA.
Like a really hoppy,
Like, yeah.
100
How about
IBU.
like how about like a bourbon barrel aged oatmeal stout? 13%.
See,
Yeah, you know.
Jake's thirsty.
And then cook her a nice dinner to go with it.
Right,
You
exactly.
punk.
Dumbass.
I brought home the beer. Where's the meal? Damn it.
How'd you get that black eye, sir?
I took your beer home.
Yeah. And then I demanded a meal. Yeah, so I used to get that. And then I think quite often, for people who don't really know me, it's that assumption that like black people want really mild beers. No one has offered me malt liquor, which is A-okay by me, because if you do, if someone's listening to this and they offer me a malt liquor, like I'm not even gonna laugh. I'm just gonna find the baseball bat that's in my trunk, and it's gonna end. It's gonna end.
Isn't that what White Claw is? A malt liquor?
Yeah.
White Claw? That's a hard seltzer or something, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's a
but
malted
it's a
beverage.
malted
beverage.
Yeah.
Even on the side of the can, it says it's beer.
Yeah.
Wait,
Really?
has White Claw taken over Canada too?
Nope.
She
So
said
like
that
you said,
very,
like you
very-
said, you're
with
a few months
big
behind or
smile.
whatever. So
You're a few
it's
months
coming.
behind, so it's coming.
It's coming.
So I give it till like January, and then I can be like, do you guys remember when I was all like, la-di-da, we don't have White Claw? I'm
Exactly.
sorry.
Now, when it gets popular, we do have one recommendation: don't chug 5 different flavors at one time.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, our last episode,
Yeah.
Beer Drank was on,
Aaron from it. Yeah, it's beer drink.
Atlanta.
and he said he got he couldn't find a single can of it, so he bought like the pack of it that has all the
The
different
variety
flavors.
pack.
Yeah.
So he said, "I'm just gonna try them all," and he did, and he threw up. So
I got
The
sick
first
on White
case
Claw.
of anybody that threw up after drinking White Claw. The first and only case.
And if you should go back and watch that show because we did not stop giving him shit about that for the entire
Oh,
show.
that's
And even the
terrible.
following day, I
Oh, he
tweeted
took
out about it.
Oh, yeah.
He took it like a champ, though. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy
He
was
was a great
hilarious.
sport.
He was
Yeah,
hilarious.
awesome.
That's horrible. Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get it because we never like got the Four Loko thing. So I'm hoping that it's in that
They
bucket
have
of
one now too.
things
14%
Canadians don't need.
14% ABV
Yeah,
for local hard
next
seltzer,
year,
baby.
apparently.
I'm good.
No.
It's just-
I will try it based on the ABV.
We already don't know what you were drinking right now. So.
I showed you the bottle. It's right here.
Hey, I guess so.
Tin
I
cup
can't.
whiskey.
I can't see the label. There's like not much.
It
left
is
in
very
it.
ambiguous. You could have anything in that
Yeah,
bottle.
you can
Chad.
anything in that
I don't
bottle.
know what tin cup is. So
Yeah.
It's American whiskey.
we don't have it in Canada land.
Right there, American whiskey.
Sure, whatever. I don't trust you.
Man, she knows
Do
you
you-
all too well. That's
Do
crazy.
you have access to buy the American beers? And is there any that you look for? Or do you favor
Just
breweries
like if I get in my car and drive across the border, yes.
No, but like your local stores? I don't know.
Yeah,
I
are there
don't-
any craft breweries that sell? I'm sure there are.
Does
but
anybody
I don't know
distribute
who.
to the stores that you shop at locally that
No.
you're a fan of?
So the way that our rules are in Ontario, our government does not trust us. So
Okay.
we don't get a lot of the good stuff. And when we do, it's horribly off code. So no, I just go to the States and grab it. I mean, we've got import companies, but they usually deal with Belgian and Italian and like kind of that stuff. But if you want stuff from the States, it's usually like just go get it. Like, I mean, my drive from here to the border is like an hour and a half. So really, I'll just go get it. So I came home with some stuff from Bronx Brewery, Brooklyn Brewery, and someone else who I can't think of. But yeah, brought some stuff home. It was great.
Cool.
That's good. And I hope White Claw never makes it there, but you never know.
I went looking
I don't
for
think
it for
you
a
can
friend
stop
of
it.
mine. There was a friend of mine who wanted a can of it, and I did go looking for it for her. But Target was sold out, so
Yeah,
It's coming. It's like the zombie outbreak. Like it's gonna get you.
It's gonna happen.
Just wait. You can't stop it.
No, because I feel like we've got some interesting rules about things. Like there's caffeine rules, and I suspect that we're not going to get it. And I hope I don't eat my words, but I don't think we're getting White Claw.
They'll change the name of it so it's not perceived as water.
They will call it Blanc Claw for the
Right.
French, and,
Yeah.
and then we'll be like, oh, it's fine, it's different.
Yeah, it's different. It must be a wine or something.
The Clos de Blanc. And we'll just be like, oh, it sounds so different.
This is way different. This is very
Sophisticated. Trulet? Is it Trulet?
Yeah.
Man. No. So when you're with your company, when you go around and you're talking to breweries about diversity, what are some of the things you're teaching them or showing them as far as like when a woman walks in, don't sit there and wait, what? Why are you here? Or a black person walks, or a black person walks in, you're like, wait, did somebody tweet this on Black Twitter? What's going on? Where are you?
Black Twitter is the best though.
But how else would you find their brewery if somebody didn't tweet about it on Black Twitter? Like, I don't know. What do you do?
Oh yeah, but I mean,
like, how did you even find us?
Black Twitter knows all.
Right, exactly.
I think, yeah, no, I mean, so it's it's always twofold for breweries. It's usually it'll be an event where I'll do a collaboration brew with them, and then we'll do a release and a talk, so it's open to the public, and it's really just talking to people. It doesn't matter what you look like, and just kind of that, hey, let's chat about this. And I was talking about the idea of craft beer being a family table, and how miraculously every time you come up to a family table, there is room for everyone. Doesn't matter how full it looks, someone manages to squish over, no one loses a seat, and you're still able to come and sit. And that's kind of what I underline, that it doesn't matter, like, you really love lagers, there's still room for you there. You really love this, there's still room for you. And that's what I talk to about to the public and to people who run breweries. It's not about getting rid of, like white straight guys who love beer. It's just about saying, hey, you can still come in here, even though you don't look like the majority of the people who are in this room. We want you to come in and feel safe and have a great time. And also, hey, our beer's really rad, so like, come drink it.
And how do they do that? Like, what's one of the, I mean, just by being opening and welcome, or is it, like what do you tell them? How do they do that, I guess, is what.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's the charitable pieces. So connect with your community and say like, hey, we really want to support this shelter or this children's program, or whatever, like whoever the local area is. Is it a food bank? So the next time we do an event, bring in some cans for that food bank. This is the list of things that the food bank wants. And people love the idea of being able to like do good while they do very little. So if you're having a great tasty beer and you're like, I brought 2 cans of tuna, I'm a saint. Right. Now that food bank's got 2 cans of tuna. You're welcome. Like that kind of thing. And it's at the end of the day, like, everyone benefits from it because they will remember that brewery has done something with their community. And, there's like a couple breweries out here. Merritt, which is in Hamilton, has started a scholarship for newcomers and like around them. And it's not beer related. And, and doing that means that people who aren't necessarily into beer are like, hey, wait, you're doing this thing. This sounds really cool. Let me go visit. Dominion City, who I work with a lot in Ottawa, we've created a diversity in beer scholarship with Niagara College, which is kind of our big college for beer education. Quite a few of Ontario's best brewers have come out of that program, and it is for underrepresented people in beer. So, even getting students to start thinking about it and being like, hey, wait a minute, I'm not a person who is seen in whatever way in beer, and this is going to give me a leg up, and just kind of things like that, where it's a bit of effort, but it's not crazy amounts of effort. It's not like, oh, you got to drop $30,000 to be like, hey, Black people of the world, we're safe to come and drink at. Like, that's not what it's about. And also about, bring in pop-ups. Like, what's the local community restaurant that everyone loves? Is it that Chinese restaurant down the street where you see those people eating there all the time and you're like, this beer would work really well with that? That's how you get them in, because they're going to follow the food. And then you realize, like, they get to learn that you're a great group of people and you're making great beer that works with their food and those kind of things.
Sounds so easy.
Yeah, it sounds so easy, but I feel
does.
that the people get really freaked out about it because they worry about failure. And when I do talks to industry, I always say, like, okay, brewers of the room, who's dumped a batch of beer? And like everybody's hand goes up. And I always ask them, well, why are you still a brewer? And then everyone, well, what? And I say, well, you tried to do something that engaged diversity and it didn't work out and you never did it again. You gave up on it. So why didn't you give up on being a brewer the same way?
Yeah.
And it's like, listen, you're not going to get it right every single time because we're human. You're always going to mess up. You're always going to ask that one friend if she's pregnant. Guess what? She's not. It was a burrito. Like, you're still friends. You still laugh about it. Like, so you learn from like that mistake, but you don't just say, like, forget it, I'm done. This diversity thing's hard. Like, yeah, life is hard.
Business is hard. The beer business is hard. Like, it's the way it is. Yeah. And I'm always surprised at how many breweries don't do just community stuff.
Yeah.
The whole idea to me of craft beer was, we always talk about like the stories behind it, but also the community that you're in, because it's so hyper local.
Yep.
You're in that community. That community is keeping your doors open. It just surprised me how many don't really do a lot back, even with a simple canned food drive.
Oh, yeah.
Simple like that. Just put out a bucket and say, hey, bring some food.
Yep, exactly.
Bring your tuna.
Yeah. But yeah, I think again, it's just that fear of messing it up and having a group of people suddenly be suspicious of you. And it's like, that's not how it works. Like, it's not one giant hive mind and that LGBT community is going to be like, forget you. Unless you've done something so horrendously offensive, most people are going to forgive you for it.
Especially if you make good beer.
Especially if you make good beer, but that you employ good people, right? Because you can make great beer and you can be an absolute garbage human.
Have you ever had to go to like a owner of a place, whether it's a brewery or a restaurant, and be like, listen, you need to fire some of the staff?
Thankfully, not yet.
That's a garbage human right over there.
That's a great.
I can't work with that person.
Garbage.
They are broken.
No, not yet.
The garbage out.
Not yet.
That's good.
I'm curious. So we've talked. Some of our questions so far have kind of centered around, being a Black woman, but you're also out and proud as a queer Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
So some of these same sort of questions, I guess, kind of bubble up to me as how it pertains to that community and what your experience has been. Not only just answering as a kind of a racial kind of question, but a lifestyle type of question. So what's your experiences like in that being a part of that community?
Yeah, I think part of what it's if you're going to support those communities, which includes my community, don't jump on a bandwagon and just be like, I want your dollars for 30 days because it's Pride Month. If you're gonna do something for that group of people, be smart about it. Either support an initiative, support a community group. Again, like, LGBTQ plus kids experience more homelessness than any other group of kids. So are you saying buy this can and we give $1 to this group? Are you supporting the Rainbow Railroad, which helps get LGBTQ plus people out of incredibly dangerous situations globally? So when you do these things, do it in a way that you're not just like, hey, gays love beer, buy my beer.
Yeah.
We don't actually care about you outside of this period of time.
Right.
So it's, and if you have to do it during Pride because everyone jumps on the bandwagon, like everyone's going to do a post at Women's Day and be like, hey, women, we love our sisters and our mothers and our whatevers.
Or brew a pink beer.
Or
But
but do it in a way again where people aren't just like, oh, you're just in it for a buck. And I think that when you're being smart about it, sometimes surprise people and don't do it at the beginning of Pride Month. Maybe do it like a month and a half before, or extend it further, but show people what you're doing to help, and also that you've created a good product. Do not skimp out on the beer. Don't just give me like some crappy, like, hey, this batch wasn't really good, so yay gays. Like, this beer's gonna be great for you. Like, that's like you can't do that.
Yeah, that's kind of a low blow too. I mean, why take a batch of beer that isn't great and assign it to a certain community? That's just silliness to me.
Yeah, and when you're brewing it, bring in some representatives or like people that, hey, I know that our regulars are gay or are non-binary or whatever, and they're really interested in brewing, so we actually brought them in to help us brew today. Just these little things that people like we don't think about as people who are in beer every day, because you're just like, well, does anyone care? And it's like, yeah, people get really excited about being able to see how long it takes to brew a beer. It's like that you show them the magic of it, and the magic is just waiting around for 4 hours. But hey, you didn't know that. So so that makes it for someone, because now they feel like you've trusted them and you're taking them seriously too. And you're saying, here, I want you to see how we do our stuff, and I've brought you in because I actually care and respect about it. And that little moment, someone walks away and says, oh, not only do they make great beer and they have a great staff, but I got to come in and brew and see how things work. And that tells me that they actually do care about me on this other level.
Yeah, and I think sharing the science behind it too is, I mean, not only is it waiting around quite a bit for 4 hours for fermentation or whatever, but
yes,
adding the hops at a specific minute, at a specific temperature, and all the science that goes behind brewing.
And missing that step, or missing an ounce of it, or missing it by a few minutes can
make
an enormous difference in the outcome. So it's
So sharing that with all
Rick,
different
can
types
I
of
ask,
are really cool.
Who do you think is the most misunderstood consumer of craft beer when it comes to, like, is it women? Is it people of color? Is it people of different orientation? Like, what's the biggest miss right now that's happening? Like, if you would just have, I go back to the word awareness, a better awareness. Like, there's a lot of people in this segment that really like good beer, and if you would just talk to them, or like you said, show some genuine compassion, maybe is the right word, or like they just actually give a shit and not just do it for 1 month. Like, what is the biggest miss that is happening right now in the craft beer world between the producers and the consumers?
I think some of it depends on where you are.
Sure.
Right. Like, I think some of it's geographically. Women still, I mean, we just talked about all the women's beer groups, but there's still so many women's groups popping up in a bunch of different areas trying to like move that forward. And so obviously if they're still being created, then there's still an issue. I think out here, Indigenous communities for sure. And I know that, obviously in the States there's an issue also, but here, like, we have the missing and murdered Indigenous women's groups trying to figure out like what's going on. But our Indigenous groups also have this horrible stereotype of being alcoholics.
Yeah.
And, so if you're Indigenous and you're interested in beer, you almost can't tell people that you are.
Right.
Which I think is just, it's so mind blowing that you can't have this conversation to say, and there's a guy I met a while ago, and we still talk quite often. And he's a professor and he's a home brewer. And he said that for years he couldn't tell people he was a home brewer because of the the unbelievably offensive things that people would tell him. So, I think that's a group that we really need to, outside of like government stuff, in the beer community, we definitely need to fix that and just like learn some of the traditional ways to do things. I think that the LGBTQ plus community is slowly getting more recognition for things. There aren't a lot of people in the community who are out. Those who are usually writers or sales reps. I don't know of a lot of brewers. The one brewer I knew, he's actually left and he's in the cannabis world now. So it's like, the one guy I knew, he's gone. Differently abled people, we don't talk about that either. I know 1, 2, 3 people, right, in beer. And again, like if you're talking X number of hundreds of breweries. So it's not one group of people, really. I think at the end of the day, it's multiple groups of people. And then you kind of have to look at like, where are we within the country? But even looking in Ontario, I'd say that all of those groups still need to be addressed properly and really get to that point where we're not just acknowledging, but learning from those groups and taking it on. And I mean, people of color for sure. You don't see us in the ads, or you don't see us in the photos for different festivals, right? Like you look at a festival photo of 100 people and you're like, there's one brown, oh no, that's a lady with a good tan. There's that, like,
absolutely true.
Right? Like
absolutely true. Yes.
Just little things like that, which make a huge difference. Like if I see a photo of a brewery that's got a patio and I see like 2 faces that aren't white, I'm pretty stoked. And it's like, it's kind of sad, but it just tells me that like 2 people who may vaguely look like me or not, but they're just like not white, went to that place and they felt comfortable to stay, then I want to go.
You mentioned the word government. Is there a...
I'm sorry.
No, well, just because you're in Canada.
Look, as long as we're not talking about our government, we're fine. Let's not even talk about ours, okay?
Is the Canadian government involved in oversight of breweries and alcohol production? How tight? I guess how tight is it?
Ooh. Yeah. Can you carry out beer at pretty much any brewery size? Does it all carry out, or is there some where they just
like growlers and
cans and bottles, or there's some that if they don't have a kitchen or some other weird ass rule, you can only buy their stuff at some local, market store or whatever?
No, for that.
Nice.
But our government doesn't really trust us for most things. So we like, I know you guys have like the distribution channels. For us, again, in Ontario, it's the LCBO, which is the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, which is a government body, which I'm just going to say...
well, they even have LCBO stores,
Is it shady?
Yeah, well, everything's shady when it's the government.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's almost like a chat. That's a chat question.
Chat question. Yeah, pass me the whiskey.
Jake.
It's different. It's different stores. It's a bunch of stuff. It's hilarious.
I'm out.
Yeah, it's stores. It's government run. So so when you guys were saying like about us getting American beer, it has to go through the LCBO if it's on the storefront, and we don't get a lot of it. So it's, again, like when some of it does come through, it may not be up to code. Date stamps are for suckers.
Is that government restriction, or is it just the American craft brewers don't try to break into the market?
What do you mean it's not up to code?
Well, no, like
dusty.
Yeah, like there was, I wish I could remember the name offhand. There was a beer that came up that was selling for pretty expensive, and those cans were like 6 months old by the time they hit the shelves.
Ugh.
Ish.
So yeah, and like John and Jane Q Public are not looking at date codes. They're just like, oh, there's a beer, I'm gonna grab it. Like, oh, today I'm gonna experiment with craft beer because it's gonna be great. And then they just get like a chunky can of crap.
Yeah.
And then they're like, craft beer.
Chunky is not a good word.
Craft beer sucks.
Yeah. Right. Like, yeah, craft beer is terrible, and I hate it. And
Paid
So
$8 for this.
Yeah, right. So we have that.
Go back
We
to
don't.
Wilson.
Yeah. So
All the bats.
there are rules for contract brewers and how they sell, but it's not terrible. I'm sure like any Canadian watching this is like, shut up, it's terrible.
You're lying.
Everything is great in Canada land. I can get beer wherever I want.
Beavers and moose and maple syrup and grape beer.
I can buy beer at the grocery store sometimes. Sometimes.
No, I don't think you got a chance to answer because Jake rudely interrupted. But is it more of the government stopping it, or is it more of the craft breweries not seeing it as a market to go to, or not being able to? I don't know. I mean, could be
what, like to get it out there further and all that.
to get
fun stuff?
to get more like the American craft beer scene in Canada.
I think part of our problem, it's probably twofold. I'm sure part of it's the government, because again, each province has its rules and regulations.
Yeah.
I mean, much like you guys with this, like your states all have different rules.
Yeah, individual rules.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. Like you can only drink in some spots till 9 p.m. and then you gotta go away. And
that's city by city and
That's
town
city by
town,
city.
too.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
that's not even state. Yeah.
So for some places here, like some places in Toronto, they've run into issues with noise laws and stuff, so they close at 9, but legally they can be open till 11. You can buy beer at your corner store. You can drink till like 2 in the sometimes 3. Out here, most things like Kitchener, most things kind of stop at about 12, 1, 1:30. So we kind of run into that same like city by city. Provincially, you have your rules, but then depending on where your brewery is, you may run into a different rule because it's like you're in a residential area, but your factory, you have to get for breweries, you have to do manufacturing license plus your sales license, and there's. Which I think you guys also have the same problem where it's like if you're just on your manufacturer's license, you can only serve up to a certain pint size. And then once you get your Tide House license, you can serve up to like 20 ounces. And so, yeah, I mean, it's, you know what? Same shit, different country.
Yeah,
for sure. You do other things other than working in the craft beer industry as far as promoting, but you do when you get invited to do other media, television, radio. What kind of subjects and topics are you being invited on to talk about?
Normally about beer.
Well, beer.
But yeah, so it's usually like kind of the diversity piece. Occasionally, it will be about government legislation, which was kind of the weird thing. Because Ontario right now is a hot mess, and our premier, who I've already said too much about him, wants to just do some crazy stuff. And it's just like, like you can start serving at 9 a.m. and you can do this and you can like tailgate and all these but these are things that, so I got brought in to be like the killjoy, to be like, yes, but socioeconomic people like who are suffering can't afford this piece. So does this work for them? And they're probably not white. So I usually get to be that person who's like, hey guys, sorry you're partying so hard, but there's this other group of people who are suffering so hard. So I'm that guy. That's I get to come in and talk about that. So I'll be your buzzkill for the night.
This Ren person is harshing my buzz. Get her out.
Yeah, I mean it's been interesting to talk about because quite often, like especially for that one appearance that we did, I brought it up and everyone was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to be that guy." But here we are, and I'm that guy.
Do you enjoy doing those pieces?
I do. I really do. Because, again, like people don't think about it, right? Like we think about beer in such a generic high level kind of way that it's just like, well, people drink beer. Who cares? And I mean, like, at the end of the day, we're not really saving lives with beer, but
Right.
whatevs. It's still a thing that is a very large portion of a lot of people's lives, and there's money to be there's money to be made in those breweries. So yeah, I really do love being able to kind of go around and talk about it and engage people who aren't part of either of the craft beer culture or part of the craft beer industry culture.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun. Not that we're any sort of experts, but I mean, given the opportunity, I think it'd be really, really cool to get on some sort of radio show or television show and talk about beer issues.
Right? Yeah.
Have no idea.
Nobody wants to talk to us.
But
Nobody's asking us.
But I think some of it too, it's like when I do talk about it, like I get trolled pretty hard after, which is always so wonderful. I've done some magazine articles where people are just like, "Why don't you shut up? You don't know anything. Like, it's not that bad." I'm like, "Oh, right. This is why I do it, because you think I'm an idiot for being like, open up beer to more people and make more money, because I'm obviously a monster that I want people to make money on things that they're making." Damn me.
Well, people live their lives with enormous blinders on.
Oh, for sure.
They care about what's going on in their life, what's going on with their family, and then what's on TV tonight. Like,
yeah.
Outside of that, it's like I don't care. Or, I have zero, not little interest in it. And there are people who, try to be more aware of what's going on around them, and the less fortunate, or diversity wise, or whatever it is. But yeah, it's easy. I mean, even for me, it's easy to get caught with the blinders, not knowing what's going on around me. So that's why it's really nice having people like yourself on to kind of take those blinders off. To because I mean, look, Jake lives across the street from me. We live in a predominantly white community, so it's not like we're running into a lot of diversity here, even.
Right.
And so I'm trying to. I was actually this whole time trying to think of the last time I went into a brewery and it was diverse. It wasn't just everybody like me.
Yeah, it's not around here. I mean, I travel for work.
I don't think we lived in a great spot, Adam.
Yeah, it's
we don't have 15 breweries here.
No, yeah. I mean, obviously, if you drive to the city,
I'm jealous. I mean that is like I wish we did.
You drive to Chicago, and there's a lot of diversity in Chicago.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go.
But then the question is, so if you see all that diversity in Chicago, do you see it in the tap room or that restaurant? Like, if it's a specific craft beer bar, because usually the answer is no. Like, I'll see a group of people kind of like wandering around, but there's no like, here are these people, that I wouldn't normally see here.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the bigger breweries in Chicago, the Goose Islands, the Revolutions, those. You see diversity?
There
you go. Half Acre, yeah. You'll see diversity, but like smaller breweries that we've been to, not a lot.
I would say in my experience, I've seen a growing amount of women, but I don't feel like I see a lot of people of color.
No,
right.
I would agree with that.
I really don't.
You definitely see more women now.
I do see more women now.
Even like Three Sheeps had, several women working there, or not Three Sheeps. I'm sorry, but Three Sheeps does too. But I was thinking Only Child. But yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Three Sheeps employs women. Some of the local bars, or Three Sheeps, Only Child. Even some of the local bars, they have their stuff at them that we've been to. It's like a lot of women servers, and they know the beer very well.
Yep.
So like the type of people you're like, I don't know, I like this brewery. They're like, this is what we got. You should try this. And I love it. Like, this person knows what the hell they're talking about. It's a person. It doesn't matter what they know. I'm gonna listen to this person. Yeah.
And I think we're also kind of at that point with beer culture where it's like you have to know more about beer. You can't just be like, I like beer. And like you guys
in general,
there's Cicerone. Which is fairly international, and then for us in Ontario, there's Prud'homme, and these are like beer courses, and they're very important that people take them, and a lot of people of all backgrounds are starting to take them who are working within beer, because it's not enough to just say, yeah, I work in beer, and we were when I was in Pittsburgh for Fresh Fest, I went to Hitchhiker. And Hitchhiker had like a bunch of women working there. There was like a guy of color. There was like, it's just these moments, and every single person there could answer like down to like the most specific question with no problems. And that's that thing where, you're not doing that like stump the chump where you're like, yeah, but what was the name of the guy who picked the hops? But just, when you get to that point of like, oh, like what's your, what kind of hops you're using, and like, oh, why, like, do you know why it's that instead of this? Which isn't normally the question you'd ask, but their knowledge allowed you to kind of geek out a bit more. And it was great because the people working behind the bar didn't look like the stereotypical brewery employee, which is so lovely.
Yeah. But and the other thing I've noticed too is that most of the women are front of house, right? They're the waitresses, the bartenders type things. I don't know if I can think of any of the brewers that we've gone to where they have a female brewer.
We haven't. That's a good point, Adam.
Yeah.
But the front of house people, like the ones that I interact with, they know their shit.
Oh yeah, and that's I mean that's.
But you're right. I can't think of a brewer.
Oh, come visit us. Like I can think of, there's my friend Kat, who's like super kick ass. She's part owner of Shortfinger, and she does like all the education for the public. Another woman named Kat, who is one of the brewers for Side Launch, which is an amazing brewery up in Collingwood. So
most of the women in Canada are named Kat. Okay.
Yes, they are.
Or most women that are brewers.
Yeah, right. And then then there's yeah, right. So there's the Granite, which I think they just celebrated their 25th or 30th anniversary, and Mary Beth is the head brewer, and she's like super kick ass. And there are quite a few women. Jen, who's in Montreal at GGCL, which is a fantastic brewery. I can think of as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh my God, there's this woman, this woman, this woman. So
yeah.
So for us, we're definitely seeing a lot more women as brewers, but we're also seeing more women as owners, as brewery owners. So, which is not a thing that was happening before in such large numbers. Like in BC, there's quite a few breweries that are either head brewers or owners, but it's happening.
Cool.
Yeah, I can think of breweries, that have owners or have women brewers. I just can't think of them around us. Locally, locally to where we go. That's within driving distance for us.
You're missing out, man. Like so for us, Shortfinger is a 15-minute walk from here, and Rob and Kat are doing some of the best beers out there. Like it's sours, it's experimentals. And they also, talking back to that, kind of looping back to that whole sense of community, they've created a fantastic sense of community. There's a Vietnamese restaurant that's moved in next door, and people are going for Thompson's food, which is fantastic. And then they're staying for the beer because it's, another 10 feet away. So it's, kind of stuff like that. And they're doing beer experiences and events where it's just, like you got a dog that's nice, come down and hang out, and there's art and there's all of these things happening, and you look around at the crowd and it's not your stereotypical beer person. Like, yeah, some of them are there, but you're seeing people who are just like finding out about this place for the first time because maybe they've gone for the food that's next door.
Yeah. Well, I just actually Googled real quick. I didn't know the head brewer at Lagunitas in Chicago is a woman.
There you go.
The head brewer of Rock Bottom Brewery in Chicago, also a woman. And this stupid Sun Times website wants me to pay to read the rest of the article, so I can't tell you who else. So,
that's weird.
Screw you sometimes.
I didn't know Rock Bottom had a place in Chicago.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you? I like Rock Bottom, but yeah.
Yeah, I do too. They're in Milwaukee, downtown Milwaukee too.
Mm-hmm. That's the first place I went there, Chad.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah. Cool.
Good place.
Cool.
Well, Ren, we're gonna try to keep this around an hour and a half here. So, where can people find you around the intertubes and social media and that kind of stuff?
I try to keep it pretty simple. So for my website, it is beer-diversity.com. because I refuse to pay the
You had me
people
going there at the whoa, whoa,
in some
whoa.
foreign country to get the beer diversity is one word. And then I'm on Instagram and Twitter is pretty much the same thing. And I'm pretty active on both, but Instagram's probably more fun. So follow me on Instagram because I just post beer and dumb shit that I do that's under the guise of making the world better.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll
Well,
find
and-
you there. I'm more active on Instagram than I am Twitter.
Instagram's so
I'm on both,
good.
but
One question that we didn't ask, we normally ask,
Oh, yeah.
what's your favorite beer right now?
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Oh,
And-
I
and
have a
everybody has that same reaction. Oh, and I think Alewives asked us that. We were all like, oh, come on, seriously. But
Oh,
I'm not saying
man.
of all time ever.
just right
saying
now.
Right now.
Currently,
Like, what
at
are you
this
feeling right
moment.
now? Yeah.
Normally I'm a jerk and I'm like, oh, it's whatever I just collab brewed,
Yeah.
which is still true because
My beer.
I know, right? I've been doing some really amazing collabs. I'm gonna pick a brewery I did a collaboration with, but I'm not gonna pick my beer because I'm not gonna be that much of a jerk. Dominion City just turned 5 about a week or two ago and did a series of collaborations, and one of the ones they did is called Safer Shores, and it is a pale ale that is like blowing my brain. And they worked with Refugee 613, which is an Ottawa-based group that helps refugees who are moving into Ottawa basically settle into new places, find a new community, and just become one with Ottawa. And this beer is like so smooth that the first day I had it, I was like, I should drink other things, but I'm just gonna have like 6 pints of this, and I'm gonna be okay with it.
Can I keep
So,
drinking
yeah.
this one?
It was bonkers. It was so good. So I think that is the beer that I'm still dreaming about.
Cool.
Do you have a favorite alcoholic beverage outside of beer?
Whiskey.
Whiskey?
There you go.
Yeah. Nice.
Nice.
You're giving
Yeah.
me shit for drinking whiskey tonight.
I don't know what you're drinking. Like seriously, you keep saying
We
it's
don't know.
whiskey, but like I don't know.
Look up Tin Cup. It's
Should I though? Like, is
No,
this gonna
not
be one of
really.
those like
It's
White
okay.
Claw moments?
No. They're out of Colorado.
You cook
Cup.
the tin.
Tin Cup, the White Claw of whiskey. Tin Cup.
They're out of Denver, Colorado.
You heard it here first.
It comes with a little tin cup on the top of it, like a shot glass. It's pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah, they advertise it as you're a rustic man climbing to the mountains, and you can't take a cup with you, so you pull off the lid. And pour it
Chance,
in.
we go make a fire outside after this and sleep by it.
Is he though? He's gonna
No,
take a
no,
shot
no,
at
he's
NyQuil
not.
and it's
No.
gonna be
Yeah.
over.
I'm not an outdoorsy guy. I
He's
always
got
want
a voice,
always want the hotel.
Yeah.
He wants the hotel or his boat, and that's all he
Yeah,
wants.
that's it.
Chad, say the banquet beer. Can you do that with your voice?
Oh, with your
Oh,
voice?
Coors,
Yeah.
Coors Banquet.
Yeah, see, it's great.
Coors Banquet.
I just
Great.
got chills.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Oh, God.
All right, Ren, thank you so much for hanging with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we covered some great topics and great detail, I think, tonight, too. That was very well
That
done.
was awesome.
Thanks,
very
you
much.
guys.
Everybody
Brent.
needs to follow her on the Twitters, the Instas, the whatevers, the all
The
overs,
whatevers.
wherevers, the socials.
So
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah, I was checking it out. You got like professional looking pics. I was
Thanks,
putting
man.
it on here. Yeah. Totes.
It's all cell phone.
Right?
It's good. It's
That's all
good
you
though.
need.
Like I
That's all
can't
you
do that with my cell phone. My head
Just-
looks big. The
You
colors.
just
up.
have to have a good cell phone. That's all it is.
But it's your head. It's not the phone. It's
I
your
think
head.
it's my
It's
head.
like-
Yeah, it
it's
has
like-
nothing to
It's
do with that.
huge and pale and looks like a horse.
Yeah.
I
Whatever.
think Jake's still
Oh, and I
using
also have a
iPhone 4 or
certificate in
something.
photography. So
There you
Yeah.
go.
See, I
See?
knew there was
See?
something else going on.
There you go.
Humble brag.
yeah, whatever.
No, it's
I went to
good.
school for photography.
Check out my beer.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
It's all right. It's all right. And I'm going to do it right now. Speaking of collabs, we're going to be doing a collaboration with Bridge Up Brewing coming
Yes,
up
we
next
are.
month. So
Yeah.
In
that's
October.
gonna be, yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we can get one in too. Damn it. And this weekend we'll be at Three Sheeps actually interviewing them. So if you're there, come on by and say hi. And if you're not, then screw you. But you can hear it later when we put it online. So there you go. All right, there we go. Hang with us for a second. We'll do the outro.
We're the three best friends that anyone could have. We're the three best friends that anyone can have. And we're always gonna hang out.